The Sahara Desert. The very name conjures images of an endless sea of sand, a vast and silent kingdom ruled by the sun. Here, the horizon stretches unbroken for hundreds of kilometers, and the landscape is sculpted by wind into ever-shifting dunes and rocky plateaus. Spanning the breadth of North Africa, the Sahara is a colossal expanse, covering an astonishing 9.2 million square kilometers. It is a mosaic of sand seas, gravel plains, rugged mountains, and ancient volcanic fields. This is the largest hot desert on our planet, a place of extreme temperatures where the mercury can soar to a staggering 50 degrees Celsius by day, only to plunge to near freezing at night. The air is often bone dry, and rainfall is a rare and precious event, sometimes absent for years at a time. In this unforgiving environment, life clings on by the thinnest of threads. Only the hardiest of plants and animals have adapted to survive, eking out an existence in the shelter of rocks or the shade of a solitary shrub. At first glance, the Sahara appears utterly devoid of the lush greenery that characterizes so much of our world. The landscape is dominated by vast stretches of sand and stone, interrupted only occasionally by a patch of tough grass or a lone acacia. But it was not always this way. The Sahara's story is one of dramatic transformation, shaped by the relentless forces of climate and time. If we could journey back in time some 11,000 years into the past, we would find a completely different landscape. The Sahara was once a thriving green savanna, a land of rolling grasslands and scattered woodlands. In this ancient era, the region teemed with life. Herds of antelope and gazelle grazed on the abundant grasses, while predators stalked through the undergrowth. Birds filled the air with their calls, and reptiles basked in the gentle warmth of the sun. Great rivers, now only faint traces in the desert, once carved their way through fertile plains, nourishing a web of interconnected lakes and wetlands. Vast lakes shimmered under the African sun, their waters supporting a rich diversity of aquatic plants and animals. Fish thrived in these ancient waters, and amphibians found refuge along their banks. Forests of acacia and other hardy trees provided shelter and food for countless species. The canopy offered shade from the midday heat, while the roots stabilized the soil and helped retain precious moisture. This was the Green Sahara, a period when powerful monsoonal rains swept far to the north, transforming the region into a paradise. The climate was milder, and the seasonal rains brought life to every corner of the land. Then, abruptly, the climate shifted. The monsoons retreated, the rains ceased, and the once fertile land began to dry. Grasslands withered, lakes shrank, and rivers faded into memory as the desert began its inexorable advance. Today, the desert continues to grow. The Sahara's boundaries are not fixed, but expand and contract with the rhythms of the climate, and in recent times the expansion has been relentless. Over the past century, the Sahara has expanded by approximately 10%, a relentless march southward that threatens the delicate balance of neighboring ecosystems. This process of desertification, driven by shifting climate patterns, turns once fertile soil into barren dust. The wind scours the land, carrying away the last vestiges of moisture and life. The Sahara is a stark reminder of the fragility of our planet's ecosystems. Even the smallest changes in rainfall or temperature can tip the balance, transforming vibrant habitats into wastelands. Yet, the desert is not uniform. Hidden among the dunes and rocky outcrops are pockets of resilience, oases where underground water allows life to persist, and rare storms can trigger brief explosions of color as dormant seeds burst into bloom. The Sahara is a land of profound emptiness, yet also one of hidden history and surprising resilience. Its ancient rocks bear witness to eons of change, and its rare plants and animals are living testaments to the power of adaptation. The question remains, could this great transformation ever be reversed? Is it possible for the Sahara to become green once again, for rivers to flow and grasslands to return? In the search for answers, attention has turned to the intricate connections that bind all life on Earth and to the remarkable resilience of nature's smallest and most industrious creatures. Could the introduction of millions of bees into the heart of the Sahara act as a catalyst for ecological renewal, setting in motion a new chapter in the desert's long and dramatic history? It is an experiment of breathtaking ambition, one that invites us to imagine the Sahara not as a static wasteland, but as a living, evolving landscape, one whose story is still being written by the forces of climate, geography, and the remarkable tenacity of life. To truly grasp the magnitude of the Sahara experiment, we must first delve into the intricate and essential roles that bees play within the natural world. Bees are not merely honey producers, they are the silent engineers of biodiversity, orchestrating the reproduction of countless plant species through the process of pollination. As bees journey from blossom to blossom in search of nectar, their bodies become dusted with pollen grains. With each visit, they transfer this pollen to the next flower, enabling fertilization and the creation of seeds and fruit. This act of pollination is fundamental to the survival of flowering plants, ensuring genetic diversity and the continuation of plant populations across meadows, forests, and grasslands. The ripple effects of bee pollination extend far beyond individual plants. By enabling plants to reproduce, bees support the entire web of life, providing food, shelter, and habitat for a multitude of organisms. Without bees, many plant species would struggle to propagate, leading to a decline in plant diversity and abundance. This in turn would affect all creatures that depend on those plants, from the smallest herbivores to the largest predators. The absence of pollinators would result in fewer seeds and fruits, diminishing food sources for herbivores and consequently for the carnivores that rely on them. The collapse of these interconnected relationships would unravel entire ecosystems, leading to barren landscapes and a dramatic loss of biodiversity. In arid environments, the presence of bees becomes even more critical. Here, only the hardiest plants survive, and their reproduction often hinges on the work of pollinators. When bees pollinate these resilient desert plants, they enable the spread of vegetation, which stabilizes soil, reduces erosion, and creates microhabitats for other organisms. Over time, this process can initiate a cascade of ecological change. More plants mean more shade, moisture retention, and opportunities for life to take hold, gradually transforming the harsh desert into a more hospitable environment. Through their tireless work, bees act as catalysts for ecological succession, paving the way for increasingly complex communities of plants and animals to establish themselves. In this vision, the bee is not simply an insect, but a keystone species, an agent of renewal and transformation, capable of breathing life into even the most inhospitable landscapes. In the heart of the Sahara, survival is a test of endurance against relentless heat and aridity. For bees, these conditions present extraordinary challenges that push their physiological limits. The desert's extreme temperatures threaten the very foundation of bee life. The most immediate danger is the searing heat, with daytime temperatures soaring well above 40 degrees Celsius. At such temperatures, bees face the risk of overheating, which can be fatal within minutes. The beeswax that forms the structure of their hive begins to soften and melt, threatening the stability of their home. As the honeycomb collapses, vital stores of honey and pollen are lost, and developing larvae are exposed to lethal conditions. Bees have evolved remarkable adaptations to regulate their microclimate. They maintain the hive's internal temperature at a stable 35 degrees Celsius, ideal for brood development. To prevent overheating, bees employ a suite of survival strategies. Some bees position themselves at the hive entrance, fanning their wings rapidly to generate airflow and cool the interior. Others collect water from available sources, carrying droplets back to the hive. As this water evaporates, it cools the hive through evaporative cooling, a critical process for survival in high heat. In the Sahara, these adaptations are pushed to their limits by the scarcity of water and the intensity of the sun. Water, essential for cooling, is extremely rare, making it nearly impossible for bees to maintain hive temperature. The ground itself radiates heat, with surface temperatures exceeding 70 degrees Celsius, creating an oven-like environment. In such arid regions, the environment can become inhospitable to entire colonies. Prolonged drought and heat waves can lead to the collapse of colonies, with bees unable to find the resources needed for survival. When bees are exposed to sudden temperature changes, such as moving from cool conditions to desert heat, the shock can be overwhelming. The abrupt transition taxes their physiological systems, making acclimatization difficult. Even if bees survive the initial exposure, the ongoing battle against dehydration and heat stress is unending. They must constantly search for nectar, pollen, and water, all while enduring temperatures that threaten their survival at every turn. The Sahara is not an empty void, but a dynamic, hostile environment where only the most resilient can endure. The inability of the European honeybee to endure the relentless heat and dryness of the desert is not the end of the evolutionary story. Nature, with its boundless creativity, has already produced solutions to the challenge of survival in extreme environments. Across the African continent and the Arabian Peninsula, certain honeybee subspecies have, over countless generations, developed remarkable adaptations for life in hot, arid climates. These are the bees of the desert, organisms whose entire biology is shaped by the demands of heat, drought, and fierce competition for resources. The resilience of these native species is rooted in their evolutionary history, their genetic makeup finely tuned to the desert's extremes. The East African land honeybee stands as a prime example of adaptation to harsh climates. In the sun-baked regions of southern and eastern Africa, these bees display exceptional hardiness, thriving where water is scarce and temperatures soar. Their smaller body size compared to their European relatives is a crucial adaptation, allowing for more efficient heat dissipation and reduced water loss. A heightened defensive behavior has also evolved, serving as a vital mechanism to safeguard limited nectar, pollen, and water from competitors in a resource-scarce landscape. Smaller colony sizes further reduce internal heat buildup, making temperature regulation within the hive more manageable. Even more specialized is the Arabian or Nubian honeybee. This species inhabits regions south of the Sahara, such as Sudan, Somalia, and the Arabian Peninsula, where summer temperatures frequently surpass 40 degrees Celsius. The Arabian honeybee's adaptations are a masterclass in desert survival, shaped by relentless environmental pressures. These bees are not only smaller, but also lighter in color, often a pale yellow, an adaptation that reflects sunlight and minimizes heat absorption. Their pale exoskeletons act as natural shields, reflecting the sun's rays and helping to maintain lower body temperatures. Unique genetic and behavioral traits, such as efficient water conservation, rapid foraging, and specialized hive ventilation, are all part of their evolutionary toolkit. These heat-adapted species are ecological keystones, perfectly suited to the rigors of desert life. Their genetic heritage equips them to endure the Sahara's extremes, from searing heat to chronic water scarcity. In any scenario of ecological restoration, the focus naturally shifts to these resilient native species, masters of survival in the world's harshest climates. The proliferation of these bees across arid landscapes would reinforce natural pollination networks, supporting the fragile web of desert life. In these environments, heat-adapted bees are not outsiders, but integral components, returning to and reinforcing the ecological balance of the desert. In the heart of the Sahara, the Kufra oasis stands as a living archive of environmental adaptation. Here, honeybees have persisted for millennia, isolated from the outside world, their existence intertwined with the sparse vegetation and the harsh, arid climate. The landscape is shaped by ancient palm groves and resilient desert flora, each plant species playing a vital role in supporting the bees' survival. The botanical diversity of the oasis, though limited, is crucial. Native plants have evolved to bloom in brief windows, offering nectar and pollen precisely when bees need them most. This synchrony between flora and pollinator is a delicate balance forged over thousands of years. The bees, in turn, facilitate the reproduction of these plants, ensuring the persistence of the oasis ecosystem. Zoologically, the Kufra bees represent a unique lineage of Apis mellifera, shaped by relentless selection pressures. Their genetic adaptations, ranging from increased heat tolerance to efficient water conservation, are a testament to the power of natural selection in extreme environments. These bees have developed behaviors and physiological traits that allow them to forage during cooler hours, minimize water loss, and exploit even the most fleeting floral resources. The environmental lesson from Kufra is clear. Life can endure and even thrive in isolation, provided there is a stable, if minimal, web of ecological relationships. The bees and plants of Kufra are locked in a mutualistic partnership, each dependent on the other for survival in a landscape where resources are scarce and conditions are unforgiving. In the Arava Desert, a different story unfolds. Here, the landscape is marked by expanses of cultivated fields interspersed with native desert vegetation. The air is notably clean, and the absence of industrial pollutants creates an environment where bees can flourish. The botanical tapestry is richer, with both wild and cultivated plants providing a continuous supply of forage throughout the year. The bees of the Arava benefit from this abundance, forming robust colonies that contribute to the pollination of both native and agricultural plants. The interplay between wild flora and cultivated crops creates a dynamic ecosystem, where pollinators enhance biodiversity and agricultural productivity alike. From a zoological perspective, the bees in the Arava demonstrate remarkable resilience and adaptability. Their health is bolstered by the pristine environment, and their foraging patterns reflect a capacity to exploit a wide range of floral resources. The presence of thriving bee populations supports a diverse array of plant species, reinforcing the stability of the desert ecosystem. Environmentally, the Arava illustrates the potential for harmony between natural and managed landscapes. The integration of native vegetation with cultivated fields creates a mosaic that supports both wild and domesticated pollinators, enhancing ecosystem services and promoting long-term sustainability. Together, Kufra and Arava offer a blueprint for desert restoration. The lessons are botanical, emphasizing the importance of native plant diversity and flowering cycles; zoological, highlighting the adaptive potential of pollinators; and environmental, demonstrating the value of clean air, ecological balance, and mutualistic relationships. These insights suggest that desert greening projects can succeed by building on the natural resilience and interdependence of plants and pollinators, even in the absence of direct human intervention. Across the globe, pollinators face a multitude of threats that extend far beyond the challenges of heat and water. These dangers are woven into the very fabric of their environments, arising from complex interactions among climate, pathogens, and ecological shifts. Among the most formidable of these threats is the Varroa destructor mite, a parasitic organism that has become a dominant force in shaping pollinator populations. This minute parasite exerts a profound influence on its hosts, weakening entire colonies and altering the balance of ecosystems. The Varroa mite is responsible for widespread colony losses, acting as a catalyst for cascading ecological effects that ripple through food webs and plant communities. As an external parasite, the mite attaches to both adult and developing pollinators, compromising their health and reproductive success. By piercing the exoskeleton and consuming vital fluids, the mite diminishes the vigor and longevity of its hosts, leading to weakened individuals and destabilized populations. The direct physiological damage is only one aspect of the threat. The Varroa mite also serves as a highly efficient vector for a suite of viral pathogens, amplifying the impact of disease within pollinator communities. As the mite moves between hosts, it transmits viruses directly into their circulatory systems, accelerating the spread of infection. One of the most devastating of these is the deformed wing virus, which results in the emergence of pollinators with malformed wings, rendering them incapable of flight. These individuals are unable to forage or contribute to colony survival, leading to rapid declines in population viability. The varroa mite exemplifies the ecological consequences of invasive species, disrupting established balances and triggering widespread losses. In its original range, the mite coexisted with the Asian honeybee, a species that developed natural defenses over evolutionary time. These pollinators exhibit grooming behaviors and physiological adaptations that limit the impact of the parasite. However, when the mite encountered new pollinator species lacking such defenses, the results were catastrophic. These populations experienced rapid declines, with entire colonies collapsing under the combined pressures of parasitism and disease. Since the late 20th century, the synergy between the mite and the viruses it transmits has led to the collapse of millions of pollinator colonies across multiple continents. This phenomenon, known as colony collapse disorder, has far-reaching implications for ecosystem stability and plant reproduction. The loss of pollinators disrupts mutualistic relationships with flowering plants, reducing seed set and altering plant community composition. The introduction of new pollinator populations into novel environments can further exacerbate the spread of parasites and pathogens, intensifying ecological stress. Dense aggregations of pollinators create ideal conditions for the proliferation of parasites, amplifying their impact on community health. Once established, the varroa mite has proven impossible to eradicate, persisting in pollinator populations and continually undermining their resilience. Even isolated ecosystems, once free of the parasite, have eventually succumbed to its spread, demonstrating the relentless nature of this global threat. The resulting loss of pollinator diversity and abundance reverberates through entire ecosystems, affecting plant regeneration, food webs, and overall biodiversity. The persistence of these threats underscores the need for ecological resilience and adaptive responses within pollinator communities as they navigate an increasingly hostile and unpredictable world. Across the diverse landscapes of Africa, bees have evolved remarkable natural defenses against parasites, particularly the varroa mite. These defenses are rooted in both biological mechanisms and complex ecological interactions within the hive. East African land honeybees, adapted to hot climates, display significant natural resistance to varroa mites through a suite of evolved traits, in contrast to other bee populations that suffer heavy losses from mite infestations. African bee colonies remain robust and healthy. One of the primary biological mechanisms is hygienic behavior, a set of actions that limit parasite spread and survival. Bees engage in frequent grooming, meticulously cleaning themselves and each other to remove mites from their bodies. This grooming behavior is highly developed, with bees detecting and dislodging parasites before they can establish. Social interactions within the hive further enhance parasite control as bees inspect and clean their hive mates. Another critical defense is the ability to detect larvae infested with mites inside sealed brood cells. Bees uncap these cells and remove the infected pupae, effectively interrupting the reproductive cycle of the mite and preventing population surges. This innate ability to maintain hive sanitation is a powerful natural advantage. The resilience of African bees is further supported by their adaptation to environmental stressors such as heat and aridity. These adaptations reinforce their defenses, making them less susceptible to parasite outbreaks. Within the hive, ecological interactions such as cooperative cleaning and brood care create an environment hostile to parasites. Dense clustering and constant movement disrupt parasite attachment and reproduction. Genetic diversity within bee populations also contributes to varied resistance traits, enhancing overall colony survival. Natural selection favors bees with heightened sensitivity to parasite presence and effective removal behaviors. Over generations, these traits become more pronounced, strengthening the colony's collective defense. The gentle nature and productivity of some bee populations can be contrasted with the robust defenses of others. In harsh climates, heat tolerance and parasite resistance are especially vital for survival. In arid environments, these natural defenses are put to the test, shaping bee populations over time. Local subspecies, adapted to their specific ecological niches, exhibit unique combinations of defensive traits. These subspecies represent a reservoir of genetic adaptations for parasite resistance. Behavioral adaptations such as fanning and thermoregulation further support colony health. Defensive behaviors, including aggressive repulsion of intruders and pests, help maintain hive integrity. Colonies with strong natural defenses can serve as reservoirs of resilience within their ecosystems. These populations preserve essential genetic traits that support long-term survival. In the wild, bee populations face constant challenges from parasites and environmental pressures. The natural resilience of African bees stands as a testament to the power of evolutionary adaptation and ecological balance. Picture, for a moment, the Sahara transformed, lush and alive, a sea of green where once there was only sand and silence. The relentless heat has softened, the air carries the scent of blooming flowers, and the hum of countless bees fills the breeze. Across the vast expanse, millions of bees, resilient and adapted, move from blossom to blossom, their colonies thriving in the heart of the once barren desert. The transformation begins subtly, almost invisible at first. Tiny green shoots emerge, scattered among the dunes, their roots anchoring the sand. Bees flit among the hardy acacias and saltbushes, pollinating their delicate flowers. Grasses take hold in the wadis and oases, their blades shimmering in the sunlight, while bees gather nectar from their blooms. The bees' tireless work sets off a chain reaction. Flowers bloom in greater numbers and seeds are spread far and wide. Each new blossom draws more pollinators, and the cycle of renewal accelerates. Pioneer plants, now thriving, reproduce with vigor, their seeds carried by the wind and by small desert creatures. Seeds drift across the sand, finding new places to take root. As vegetation spreads, roots weave through the dunes, holding them steady against the wind. The once shifting sands are now bound together by a living network. Fallen leaves and stems decompose, their nutrients seeping into the earth. For the first time in millennia, a thin layer of rich humus forms atop the sand, dark and fertile. With more plants come more flowers, and with more flowers the bees multiply. Fields of blossoms sway in the breeze, alive with the sound of bees collecting nectar and pollen. This cycle of growth and renewal intensifies year after year, decade after decade. The green cover expands, reshaping the landscape and altering the very air. Beneath the spreading canopies, the ground cools and shade nurtures new life. Plants release water vapor, and dew forms on leaves in the early morning. Clouds gather above the green expanse and moisture lingers, inviting even more growth. The air grows more humid, and new, less hardy plants begin to appear, taking root in the softened earth. The green frontier advances steadily, overtaking the barren ground. With each new patch of vegetation, life returns in greater abundance. Insects of every kind, beetles, butterflies and more, flock to the flowers, filling the air with movement and color. Birds swoop down to feed on the insects, while reptiles hunt among the blossoming plants. As the plant cover thickens, herds of antelope and other herbivores graze on the fresh growth, their presence a sign of the land's renewal. Predators follow, moving silently through the tall grasses, restoring the balance of the wild. Over centuries, the Sahara is reborn, a living, breathing savanna teeming with life. A vibrant tapestry of plants, animals, and pollinators woven together by the quiet, persistent work of the bees. The vision of a green Sahara is compelling from an ecological perspective. promising a dramatic shift in the planet's environmental dynamics. Yet, transforming the Sahara on such a vast scale would trigger a cascade of ecological changes, many of which remain deeply unpredictable. The Sahara, as it exists, is not a void, but a critical node in the planet's interconnected web of ecosystems. Its arid expanse plays a pivotal role in regulating atmospheric and biogeochemical cycles. Introducing widespread vegetation would disrupt the delicate equilibrium that has persisted for millennia, potentially altering wind patterns, rainfall distribution, and soil chemistry. The Sahara is the planet's largest source of atmospheric dust, a phenomenon with far-reaching ecological implications. Annually, hundreds of millions of tons of mineral-rich dust are swept from the desert and carried across continents and oceans. This dust is not inert. It is a vital ecological agent. It fertilizes distant ecosystems, delivering iron and micronutrients essential for marine and terrestrial productivity. In the ocean, these nutrients fuel phytoplankton blooms, which underpin marine food webs and drive global carbon cycling. The dust's reach is planetary, influencing the productivity of the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. Phytoplankton, the base of the marine food chain, rely on these nutrients to thrive. The dust journey extends to the Amazon basin, where it replenishes phosphorus lost from rainforest soils. Without this annual influx, the Amazon's nutrient cycle would be fundamentally altered. The rainforest's lushness belies the poverty of its soils, which are constantly leached by heavy rains. The Sahara's dust compensates for this loss, sustaining the region's extraordinary biodiversity. If the Sahara were transformed into a green landscape, the dust supply would dwindle or vanish. Vegetation would anchor the soil, preventing dust from entering the atmosphere. The disappearance of dust plumes would have profound consequences for nutrient cycles across continents and oceans. Marine productivity in the Atlantic could decline as phytoplankton lose a key nutrient source, potentially disrupting entire food webs. The Amazon rainforest might experience nutrient stress, leading to reduced growth and a loss of biodiversity. The greening of the Sahara could inadvertently trigger the browning of the Amazon, a stark ecological trade-off. Such a transformation could set off a chain reaction, altering atmospheric circulation, rainfall patterns, and even the global climate. The Sahara's transformation would ripple through the planet's interconnected systems, demonstrating that every ecosystem is part of a vast, delicate network. The full extent of these ecological consequences remains unknown, but scientific analysis suggests that the effects could be profound, far-reaching, and irreversible. Beneath the scorching surface of the Sahara lies an unseen universe, a thriving soil microbiome that defies the apparent barrenness above. Microscopic life forms, including bacteria, fungi, and archaea, have adapted over millennia to the desert's extreme conditions. These resilient organisms form intricate networks, anchoring the foundation of the Sahara's unique ecosystem. The Sahara's soil microbiome orchestrates crucial biochemical processes. Specialized bacteria break down mineral particles, releasing trace nutrients that support sparse desert plants. Cyanobacteria, capable of photosynthesis, form protective crusts on the soil's surface, stabilizing the ground and reducing erosion. These crusts also fix atmospheric nitrogen, enriching the soil and enabling the germination of hardy seeds. Fungi establish symbiotic relationships with plant roots, extending their reach for water and minerals far beyond what roots alone could access. These mycorrhizal partnerships are vital for the survival of desert flora, allowing them to persist through drought and nutrient scarcity. In turn, plants provide organic compounds that sustain the subterranean microbial community. Insects, too, rely on this hidden world. Many desert pollinators and detritivores depend on microbes to break down decaying plant matter, recycling nutrients essential for the next generation of life. Microbial activity in the soil creates microhabitats, supporting insect larvae and fostering a web of interdependence beneath the sands. Despite the Sahara's harshness, its soil microbiome remains remarkably diverse, with countless species still undiscovered by science. This underground world is a silent architect of resilience, enabling life to persist against the odds, and serving as a reminder that the vitality of an ecosystem often begins where it is least visible, in the microscopic tapestry beneath our feet. While the Sahara's soil teems with invisible life, above ground, a delicate dance unfolds between desert plants and their pollinators. Each relies on the other, forging alliances that have evolved over thousands of years to weather the extremes of heat, drought, and scarcity. Desert plants, from resilient acacias to the fleeting blooms of ephemeral wildflowers, have honed remarkable survival strategies. Many produce vivid, short-lived blossoms after rare rains, timing their flowering to coincide with the brief presence of pollinators. Their petals may shimmer with ultraviolet patterns, signals visible only to the compound eyes of desert bees and butterflies, guiding them like landing lights to precious nectar and pollen. In turn, pollinators have adapted to the desert's unforgiving landscape. Some bees emerge from underground nests only after sensing vibrations from raindrops above, ensuring their arrival matches the flowering window. Moths and beetles, cloaked in sandy camouflage, travel at dusk or dawn to avoid the punishing midday heat, using the faint scents of flowers to navigate across vast distances. This mutual dependence is a marvel of evolutionary fine-tuning. Plants offer nectar, a vital energy source in a land of scarcity, while pollinators ensure the next generation of seeds. Some desert flowers have evolved deep tubular shapes, accessible only to pollinators with long tongues or specialized mouthparts, ensuring their pollen is transferred only by dedicated partners. These intricate relationships form the heartbeat of the Sahara's living tapestry. Without pollinators, plants would fail to reproduce. Without plants, pollinators would vanish. Together they persevere, their survival strategies intertwined, their existence a testament to nature's ingenuity in even the harshest of worlds. As the Sahara's ancient rhythms unfold, a new and formidable force disrupts the balanced climate change. Rising global temperatures and shifting weather patterns accelerate the process of desertification, transforming once marginal lands into arid wastelands at an unprecedented rate. Scientific studies reveal that the Sahara has expanded by approximately 10% in the past century, encroaching further each year into the Sahel and beyond. This expansion is not simply a matter of encroaching sand. Higher surface temperatures lead to more rapid evaporation of scarce moisture, while erratic rainfall patterns result in fewer but more intense storms. These changes strip the land of its fragile vegetation, exposing the soil to wind erosion and further reducing its ability to support life. For pollinators, the consequences are profound. As native plants struggle to survive, their flowering periods become shorter and less predictable. This disrupts the delicate synchrony between plant blooming and pollinator emergence, a timing honed over millennia. Desert bees, butterflies, and beetles may emerge to find no flowers, while plants may bloom only to wither before pollinators arrive. Scientific models project that continued warming could push many pollinator species beyond their physiological limits. Some heat-adapted bees can tolerate temperatures up to 50 degrees Celsius, but sustained extremes and shrinking oases force populations into decline or migration. Genetic diversity dwindles, making them more vulnerable to disease and habitat loss. The loss of pollinators reverberates through the ecosystem. Fewer pollinators mean fewer seeds and less vegetation, which in turn accelerates soil degradation and further desertification, a feedback loop spiraling ever faster under climate change. Yet research also points to potential resilience. Some desert-adapted species may shift their ranges or adapt their behaviors, and certain drought-resistant plants can persist under harsher conditions. But without concerted efforts to mitigate climate change and protect these keystone species, the intricate dance of survival in the Sahara faces an uncertain future, one shaped more by human-induced change than by nature's slow evolution. Beneath the blazing sun and shifting dunes, a hidden network of desert animals quietly sustains the Sahara's fragile life. While bees and insects are nature's celebrated pollinators, a caste of native creatures, often overlooked, plays equally vital roles in maintaining the delicate balance of this arid ecosystem. Take the Saharan silver ant, famed for its blistering midday forays. These ants scavenge nectar and transport pollen between the fleeting blooms of desert flowers, thriving in temperatures that would overwhelm most insects. Their resilience ensures that even the briefest flowering events contribute to the next generation of plants. The fennec fox, with its oversized ears and nocturnal wanderings, is more than a charismatic survivor. As it forages for fruit and seeds under cover of darkness, it inadvertently spreads pollen and seeds across vast distances. Each paw print left in the sand is a subtle act of ecosystem engineering, helping plants colonize new ground. Birds, too, are partners in this dance. The desert lark, for example, flits from shrub to shrub, feeding on nectar-rich flowers. In the process, pollen dusts its feathers, hitching a ride to distant blooms. Meanwhile, reptiles like the spiny-tailed lizard feast on blossoms and fruit, dispersing seeds in their droppings and encouraging plant growth in unexpected places. Even the smallest desert dwellers contribute. Rodents such as the gerbil collect seeds, inadvertently burying some in the soil, an act that helps revegetate barren patches and stabilize the shifting sands. Together, these animals form a living web of support for pollinators and plants alike. Their foraging, burrowing, and daily routines knit the Sahara's ecosystem together, buffering it against the harshest extremes. As climate change accelerates and pollinators face mounting threats, the unsung efforts of these desert allies become ever more crucial. In the quiet persistence of ants, foxes, birds, and lizards, the Sahara's hope for resilience endures, woven into every grain of sand and every fleeting flower. Imagine a Sahara transformed not by human hands, but by technologies inspired by the desert itself. Across the vast expanse of golden dunes, invisible systems quietly work in harmony with nature, their designs borrowed from the most resilient desert dwellers. This is the frontier of biomimicry and ecological engineering, a world where innovation looks to the wisdom of the wild. Picture artificial root networks, modeled after the deep-seeking roots of acacia trees threading through the sand. These underground webs capture scarce moisture, channeling dew and rare rainfall to parched soil layers. Above ground, windbreaks shaped like the spiny-tailed lizard's scales, slow-shifting sands, protecting tender seedlings from erosion and creating microclimates where life can take hold. Tiny sensors, inspired by the sensitive whiskers of desert rodents, monitor temperature and humidity, triggering bursts of water vapor or shade when conditions grow too harsh. Swarms of autonomous drones moving like flocks of desert larks scatter seeds coated in protective shells, each shell designed to mimic the hardiness of native plant seeds, ensuring survival until the next rain. Even the microbiome beneath the sands is not forgotten. Engineered soil microbes, patterned after those thriving in ancient oases, are carefully released to restore fertility, breaking down organic matter and fixing nitrogen just as nature intended. All of these systems operate without human presence, guided by the logic of the landscape and the lessons written into the DNA of the desert's own inhabitants. The result is a living, self-healing tapestry, where advanced technology and ancient adaptation work as one, nudging the Sahara toward a greener, more resilient future. In this vision, the greatest innovations are not imposed, but woven seamlessly into the fabric of the wild. The blueprint for reversing desertification lies not in conquering nature, but in learning from it, letting the desert's own genius lead the way. As the years pass, the once barren Sahara slowly transforms. But how can we know if these rewilding efforts truly succeed? The answer lies in the silent, meticulous science of long-term ecological monitoring. Across the revitalized dunes, networks of solar-powered observation towers rise above new groves, quietly recording the pulse of the land. Arrays of sensors, camouflaged among the grasses and shrubs, measure soil moisture, temperature, and nutrient levels, transmitting data day and night. Satellite imagery, analyzed by artificial intelligence, tracks the expansion of plant cover, mapping the subtle shift from ochre to green. In the cool of dawn, automated camera traps capture fleeting moments, a lizard basking on a shaded stone, a bee visiting the first wildflowers of the season. Over time, these images reveal the return of pollinators, the spread of native seeds, and the gradual reappearance of small mammals and birds. Beneath the surface, tiny robots, modeled after burrowing insects, collect soil samples. These are analyzed for microbial diversity, checking for the telltale DNA signatures of restored fertility. The data show a web of life growing ever more complex, fungi, bacteria, and plant roots interwoven in a tapestry of resilience. Findings emerge. Water retention in the soil steadily improves, reducing runoff and evaporation. Native plants outcompete invasive species, stabilizing dunes and providing shelter for animal life. Pollinator numbers climb, and with them, the promise of future generations of flowering plants. Every metric tells a story, not of sudden miracles, but of patient, persistent change. The Sahara's restored patches become living laboratories, their progress tracked in real time, their lessons shaping future restoration across the world's deserts. Here, the green tide is measured not in days or months, but in decades, a testament to nature's slow, steady power to heal when given the space and support it needs.